Welcome to the Savvy Dentist podcast with Dr. Jesse Green, the show where great dentistry meets great business. Listen in each week as we bring you an inspiring person who will share their story, ideas and business techniques to help you create a practice and a life you love. And now introducing your host, Dr. Jesse Green.
Hello everyone, it's Jesse Green here. Welcome back to SavvyDentist.com and to the Savvy Dentist podcast. It's wonderful to have your company for another episode of the show. Now, if you're a practice owner and you've thought about hiring a young dentist recently, then I guarantee you the topic of mentorship has probably factored into those conversations. Young dentists seem to be graduating, requesting, asking for mentorship way more than they've ever done in the past. And the opportunity for practice owners is as a recruitment tool. We can use mentoring programs to attract and retain the best and brightest young dentists in our practice, but there are some challenges, and those challenges typically occur when there's miscommunication about what's on offer and what's expected. Sometimes young dentists might feel like they're signing up to a practice that has a great mentoring program and they are disappointed about what's on offer. And from the practice owner's point of view, they feel like they're giving up a lot of their time, energy and expertise to train a dentist that might stay or may not stay. And so there's this gap, this bridge that needs to be to be spanned. We need to be able to close that gap and have everyone on that same page. And my guests today are Dr. Camelia Maris and Dr. Jeff Coe. And together they're going to be having a conversation with us about what good mentoring looks like, how to structure it, what are the challenges that young dentists face as they start their career, and what are the challenges that practice owners face in trying to help the young dentists get started in their career. How can we close that gap, as I mentioned a moment ago? What I find really interesting about this conversation is Camelia and Jeff both have a wonderful broad perspective. They're looking at things from both sides of the fence. How do we support the young dentists? How do we give them the best start in their career? Acknowledging, yes, it's their responsibility to be self-reliant, but also putting in place some of the building blocks that we can put in place to give them that start that they're looking for. And from the practice owner's point of view, how much mentoring should we provide? What sort of structures could we be looking at? Is it a 12-month curated mentoring program, or are there other options that allow us to fulfill that mentoring role, but without it being so time-consuming and burdensome? So lots of good stuff in this conversation. Now, I should also tell you that Camelia and Jeff are running the Dental Summit in 2023. It's called TDS, or if you go to TDS.com, TDS23.com, I should say, you can register there. Now, if you are wanting to go along and you're a listener of the Savvy Dentist podcast, you can use the Savvy10 coupon code at checkout, and I'd really encourage you to get along there, because what I would say is that this particular event, what's going to be unique and interesting is there's going to be a pool of young dentists looking for roles, and there's going to be a pool of practice owners looking to recruit young dentists. So this is going to be like a matchmaking service. So whether you're a young dentist or whether you're a practice owner and you want to meet the other person, then I'd encourage you to get along to the event. So TDS23.com, use the coupon code SAVVY10, grab yourself a 10% discount, and I look forward to seeing you there. I'm really privileged to be speaking at the event. I can't wait to be there. It's going to be epic, and I hope to see you there as well. But for now, let's get on to our conversation with Jeff and Camelia. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I enjoyed recording it. Camelia and Jeff, welcome to the Savvy Dentist podcast. It's fantastic to have you both here. Thanks, both of you, for making the time. How's things up your way?
Really good. We are experiencing a cold chill at the moment here in Queensland, 6 degrees, and we are freezing.
Well, that's because you guys don't have the houses built for it, but that's okay. We'll hopefully get you through that and come out the other side into spring soon enough. Camelia, how about you? How's things up your way?
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much for having me, Jesse. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be on your podcast, to be invited to talk. My way, I live in one of those Queenslanders that you just described. So I've got gaps in the floor and in the walls, which is great for summer, but not so good when things get a little bit colder. So I'll have to start pulling my rugs out and throwing them all over the place.
Yeah, I do love a Queenslander house, so they are beautiful. Guys, so really interesting to talk today, because we're going to be talking about the life and times of new and recent graduates. And obviously you guys are very well known, very well respected in that area. There's the Dental Summit of 2023 that's coming up very shortly. And I wanted to talk specifically today about your experience dealing with young dentists, recent graduates, new graduates, some of the things that they encounter, some of the struggles they might have, and equally from the young graduate's point of view, but also from a practice owner's point of view, about how they can support their graduates really well and help them get a good start into their career, and obviously, with the goal of having them become productive members of the team. So I'm just curious to ask both of you about your starts in dentistry, what that was like for you guys. I know, Jeff, like me, well, actually probably not like me, I've been out way longer than you. You've been out a little bit, and Camille's been out 7 or so years. I'm just wondering your experience, if you can remember those as a new and recent grad. What was it like for you guys?
I feel like when I graduated dentistry, there felt like there was a struggle to seek the ideal position or to find the ideal job in dentistry. Not so much these days, because it seems to be an associate's market and there are so many job opportunities out there. But when I graduated, it really was a hunt to find the most ideal job that you could find. And I guess I sort of feel like I hit the jackpot with the position that I landed with Dr. Jeff Rico. I used to hear it being talked about that, Camellia got the best job when she graduated. So that's what the climate was like when I graduated. As always, when you're a dentist, there's that fear of making mistakes. So when I first graduated, I was a perfectionist and I wanted everything to go perfectly. And I was worried about my first file instrument fracture. I was worried about not being able to do a surgical extraction properly. I guess it gave me the drive to improve myself rather rapidly, because it felt like sink or swim. These days, I suppose it's quite different. It's a more supportive environment. Like I said, it's a more associates market, and a lot of that's out there more readily for you. But I was one of those associates where, I really had to take the initiative and go out there and find what I wanted for myself to make myself the best possible dentist.
Fantastic. And what about you, Jeff? I mean, it's been a little while since you were a new grad, so we're stretching a little bit back into the memory bank, but do you remember what it was like? Do you remember those first days of being a practicing dentist?
Oh, I do, Jesse. Let me take you back to the year 2005, and I was looking for a job, thumbing my fingers through a thick yellow book called the Yellow Pages. That's how I found my job, mate. When the Yellow Pages was around.
The younger members of the audience are going to be going, what's that?
Yeah, it's the thing that you sit on when you play the piano. And in my day, back then when I was at university, there was no iPhone. We had Nokia bricks. I remember I had a Nokia 3310 or a 3328. And it was a time when we still had dial-up internet. And how has the landscape changed? Well, it's totally changed because technology has taken over. How patients find us now is totally different. They find us online on Google. They find us on social media, Facebook and the Gram. But I tell you what hasn't changed is the importance of communicating with patients and connecting with patients. That still hasn't changed, and that's unlikely to change anytime soon.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think that so much has changed, but at the end of the day, there's still a person attached to the teeth. And that's the person we're trying to treat. Interestingly enough, when I graduated in 1994, and I remember we had one lecture on composite resins, posterior resins, and the lecture started by saying, don't do them. And that was back then. And so we were still getting questions in our vivas, what's copal resin and why would copal varnish and why do you use it, kind of stuff. And of course, all of that has long since gone, and dentistry has continued to change and will continue to change. So I think one of the things that I've reflected on for the young graduates is their learning curve is probably a little more rapid than mine was. When I got out, dentistry was still practicing the way it had practiced for 20, 30 years prior to that. But in the space of your practicing life, Jeff, and certainly in yours, Camilla, things have changed rapidly and continue to change because, as you said, the digital landscape, the technological landscape is evolving very, very rapidly. And that's a lot for people to keep their head around and to remain current with. So I wanted to ask you, with the young dentists today, you both interact with young dentists. You have trained many young dentists. You've got the Dental Summit coming up later in the year, which is an event for helping dentists get up to speed. Where do you see young dentists typically struggling? Is it the clinical side? Is it the patient management side? Is it both of those things? Maybe we can talk about both of them. What do you see, Camilla? You hang around lots of young dentists.
There's either two possible areas that young dentists struggle in. The first one would be the communication. So like you were both saying, there are some dentists that attend hours and hours of CPD courses and lectures, and they build up a great theoretical knowledge. They've got a really great set of hand skills. But then when it comes to converting their patients and getting their patients to say yes to their complex treatment plans, this is where they fall short a little bit. And so regardless of the fact that they've got all these great new skills that they've spent thousands of dollars acquiring, they're not able to get their patients to say yes. So they never get to put these skills to use, and then they lose confidence, and then it's a little bit of a vicious cycle. So I think communication, understanding the need to be able to adapt your personality to suit the patient that's in your chair, and just understanding that there is a certain way to do it, and there is a system, and that communication skills can be learnt and applied the same way that you can learn composite skills and matrix band skills. And that's something that's really important within those first couple of years, and something I wish I had known within my first or 1 to 2 years out, because I struggled a little bit. Then once I had learnt it, life just got a little bit easier and less stressful.
What about you, Jeff? I mean, what do you see? And equally, from a practice owner's point of view, what do you think other practice owners need to be aware of as they're interacting with their young dentists?
Absolutely. I've got the old adage, keeping up with the Joneses, Jesse. It's these days, it's keeping up with the gram.
Yeah.
So the young student looks on the gram and they see all this amazing, beautiful, flawless composite veneers, implant work, aligner, ortho, and they think, oh, that's what I need to be doing right now. And they get depressed when their composite doesn't look like what they see on the gram or on DPR, right?
Yeah.
And they go, oh, I'm really bad. I'm really, really bad. Then they think their skills aren't there. They think they're behind the 8 ball, and they get depressed. We see that time and time again, so many times over the years, and it's not getting better. It's getting worse. So, that's one. That's a big challenge for an associate to dissociate themselves from Instagram and social media and thinking, oh, I need to be able to do those things right now. Well, the truth of the matter is you need to crawl before you walk. You need to walk before you jog. You need to jog before you run. Like, you can't just go straight to running. And so many associates across the country are thinking they need to be able to do a full mouth prep straight away in the first year out. Otherwise, they're not keeping up with the Joneses. So that's the first thing. Practice owners, the way to retain an associate, it is becoming much, much more competitive. So back when I graduated in 2005, around 97 to 98% of associates or graduates found full-time work in the first 6 months.
Yep.
And that high dipped and found a trough in a valley in and around 2012 when the floodgates from overseas dentists were at an all-time high. And that dropped down to about 80% found full-time work in the first 6 months. But now, since COVID, it's back up to that 98, 99, or, anyone who wants to find work can, which means it's much more difficult for the practice owner to retain their associate, because they can look around, look down the street, potentially get a high commission or find a better work environment, and it's not too hard for them. So the challenge for the practice owner is to keep that associate engaged. And one of the ways that I think practice owners can do that is by investing in the dentists themselves in the specific areas that they're interested in learning. It could be pros, restorative, ortho, surgery, endo, encouraging that within your clinic, giving them coaching and mentoring, sending them to courses in CPD, actually paying for it, or maybe co-paying for it, half of it.
Yep.
As a practice owner, you need to start looking at these different avenues which you didn't have to think about 10 years ago.
It's a really interesting thing, because that's totally changed again over the years, right? Back again when I graduated, it was kind of you find your own way and don't stuff it up, basically, was the advice. Like, go and do some courses, don't stuff it up, only bother me if you really get stuck. These days I'm noticing that practice owners need to be on that front foot, as you've indicated, training, mentoring, helping the young dentist upskill as a retention tool. Where does that responsibility lie for self-development and then shared development? So I'm interested to understand the mindset of the young dentist as it relates to the mindset of the experienced practice owner. Where does that responsibility for professional development really lie? Is it a shared development? Is it or is it really the young dentist's responsibility to upskill themselves? Where does that lie? I mean, I know it's not a clear-cut question, but I'm just curious around your thoughts around that.
It ultimately lies with the practitioner themselves.
Yeah.
They're the captain of the ship. They're the captain of their own destiny and where they end up and what they want to do. So I see too many young dentists these days just relying on the practice to teach and train and coach and mentor.
Yeah.
It's not the practice's job.
No.
You look at the ads that go out over the last 3 years, every ad talks about mentoring and mentorship, right?
Yes.
And the grads these days, they go, oh, mentoring, I want mentoring. It's the fad word at the moment. It's the last few years.
Yeah.
It's all about mentoring. Now, in our university talks, we actually bring that up and ask the grads, what do you think mentoring actually looks like? Because what some practice owners deem to be mentoring, which is if you have a problem, send me a text on WhatsApp. I'm never going to be in the practice anyway because I'm out playing golf. But if you're stuck in a surgical, just give me a call. Right, that's their idea
of mentoring.
Mentoring.
Yep.
And on the other end of the spectrum, some practices will have a full mentoring program, 12-month program for the graduate that teaches them everything from endo to pros to communications. So we always tell the younger grad, look out for what mentoring actually means in the practice that you're applying. Because it's wide and varied, and it's a wild, wild west out there.
Camille, what are you hearing the young dentists talk about from a mentoring point of view? Again, you hang around them a lot. You're closer to their age group than perhaps Jeff and I are.
There's definitely, it's the fad word at the moment. So when you talk to the new graduates and even at the university talks, the students, they're all, money's not important. I want to go into a position that offers mentorship. And I always say the same as what you both said, is that there should be a really clear definition of what you mean by mentorship. So if you're wanting someone to just lean in over your shoulder and check things every now and then, or if you're wanting like a curated 12-month mentorship program, I do feel that the new graduates' expectation of mentorship is a little bit unrealistic at the moment, because you see these opportunities presented on DPR and on other forums, these job ads that have this curated 12-month mentorship program, and they just expect that all mentorship is like that. But it is the responsibility of the clinician to seek their own education. You're only as good as the effort that you put in within those first couple of years. And I was a strong believer, and I still have a very strong passion for education. In my first couple of years as a dentist, I was just as broke, if not broker, than I was when I was a student. Like, I was still driving around the same old 2003 bomb. I was, for the first 2 years, I didn't spend the money on the car. I didn't buy expensive handbags. In reality, I spent, I want to say, maybe 100,000, maybe a little bit more on my education. And that has helped me immeasurably. Now, as like a 7-year graduate, the things are just so, I don't want to say effortless, but I look at my counterparts who are the same amount of years out, and maybe they didn't take the time to invest in that education within the first couple of years, and they're a little bit lost. They're struggling a little bit. They're asking questions that I was asking a year in my first years. My idea of mentorship was that it's that you need to show the initiative and go out there and get it yourself. It's not going to be something that is just handed to you on a plate, and that ideology has served me well.
I really want to just acknowledge that for a moment, because I'd say, Camilla, you're probably one of the, if you look at the bell curve in terms of motivation and drive, you're at one end of that bell curve. And I want to acknowledge that, because spending $100,000 of your own money in those first few years is absolutely, I think, a commitment to yourself and an investment in yourself. And you're seeing the rewards and the reaping the benefits of that investment in yourself now. Do you see many other people as keen and as interested and maybe as driven to make that same investment as you did? Because that's I think that's an incredible degree of motivation, and I applaud you for it. I'm just, because I don't see as many young people as you do. Is that typical, atypical? Where does that fit in?
I suppose because I am the clinical director of AHC, the dental education company, and I do see a disproportionately larger amount of keen dentists or keen young dentists, because the ones that are attending our courses are the keen ones. But I have to say, in my day-to-day practice, in a couple of the private practices that I work at and have worked at, no. We are living in a culture where the graduates coming through now, they have very high expectations, but they have very little drive to achieve those expectations. So the general theme that I'm getting is that no one really wants to work hard anymore to achieve their goals, especially the younger dentists. But then I get a lot of hope when I see the ones that attend our courses, and I'm like, okay, yeah, don't be so judgmental. Not everybody is Gen Z. It's okay.
Yeah. And what about you, Jeff? What's your thoughts on that topic, mate?
We see a wide variety across the practices and across the country with associates. We certainly do see that bell curve. I would say this, compared to back in when I graduated in 05, 06, and fast forward 17, 18 years, the dental graduate of today is much more driven by, again, the Instagram and social media, seeing the work on there, but they're lazy. They just don't want to do the hard work. They don't want to work the late hours. They want cruisy hours. They just want to work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and have the weekends off. And they think that's the norm. No, it's disappointing to see.
Okay. Camellia, what's your thoughts?
I challenge these new graduate dentists that are coming out to actually flip it a little bit and think, instead of, what are you going to provide for me as my dental practice? What are you actually bringing to the table? So what makes you stand out as an associate? For example, when I first graduated, I liked to think of myself as a business owner within a business. Yeah. So that's the mindset that I had. So what that came down to was I took the time to work with the dental assistant that I had to train her as if this was my practice. I was careful about the materials that I used. I was careful not to be wasteful. I took an interest in if my patients were going ahead with the treatments that I was prescribing. So I would walk out there afterwards and I would say to my front office coordinator, did they book in? Did they not book in? Okay, why didn't they book in? So, and that's the way I sort of thought of things. And that mindset of thinking about the financial aspects of running a dental practice and running a business, I think was really beneficial as well.
Obviously, there's associates of all different flavours, right? And we get the ones that who are perhaps not as driven, not as motivated. But then you've got the committees of the world who are really motivated and driven. And as a practice owner, obviously they're the ones we want to attract. They're the ones we want to have in our practice. They're the ones we want to work with. And they're the ones that, as a business owner, you're actually really willing to invest in and work with as well. Because I think, to your point, committee, you said, what can I bring to the practice? And I think when you meet the practice owner halfway on that, you're going to get that really nice relationship where the practice is happy to support and invest and mentor and all those sorts of things, where you've got an active participant as the associate. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about the curated mentoring versus the unstructured mentoring for a second, because one of the common challenges that dental practice owners have is they're kind of either busy seeing their own patients, busy running the practice, or maybe just trying to get a bit of time away as well, because we all know that there's some stresses and strains that come with practice ownership. And so one of the things that I've often thought is that if you don't have the time or the effort or the energy to put together a curated mentoring program, it is useful to look at something like AHC or TDS as an outsourced solution for mentoring, to be able to say, okay, well, we know in year one we want you to be comfortable and competent in, I don't know, maybe it's single visit crowns, maybe it's a surgical extraction or sectioning teeth or whatever it is. What are your thoughts around, outsourced mentoring versus in-house mentoring? Do you have any perspectives on that?
I think it's great because if you're, like you said, a practice owner that's too busy to set up this curated in-house 12-month mentorship program, that's okay, because there are companies like AHC Dental Ed that do offer this sort of thing already. So if you're a practice owner and you're wanting to do this, you could literally just come to us and say, I've got a new graduate, I want to mentor them. And we say, yep, okay, great. We'll give you a 6 or 12 course package, and it's going to cost this much. And you send them along, and then you can advertise your practice as an AHC Dental Ed course provider.
From a practice owner's perspective, most practice owners want to see their new grad first year out producing just like the associate who's been there 2, 3, 4 years out.
Yeah.
If you're able to shorten that time from, say, 3 years to 1 year, and you invest time and effort and finances into that grad so that their hourly rate or monthly billings is up to what the third year out person is in the first year, then that's very rewarding and makes a lot of financial sense. And not only that, because the issues and challenges that a lot of grads have is that there's a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of redos, restoration fee bond, crowns chip, crowns break, post-op sensitivity. The list goes on and on. So by investing in your associate, not only does their hourly rate or production increase quicker, their mistakes and redos decrease. So it costs the practice less. There's many reasons why you would invest in that graduate from a practice owner's perspective.
Yeah, 100%. I always say the most expensive work is rework, and no one wants to do that longer than you need to. So I think that's really cool.
I find that some of the new graduates that I'm talking to now, they're saying, okay, so where do I go to learn about implants? Where do I go to do the full mouth rehabilitation? And I sort of think, whoa, that's not how I looked at it when I first graduated. So I took courses in quadrant restorative dentistry. So instead of searching out the implant courses, I took courses in, so if I was booking 50 minutes for one class 2, but I knew that half of that 50 minutes was just going to be dedicated to numbing that patient up and doing like the polishing procedures afterwards, why couldn't I book an hour and do 3 class 2s at the same time? So the way that I saw it was book the right courses, do the right education in that first year out or even that first 6 months. So focus on direct restorative and being able to do it really, really well and really, really quickly. Do it right the first time so that you avoid the need for redo. And then thereafter, in the second year, I was like, what's my next step? So my next step would be doing less of these 5 surface composites and doing a little bit more indirect dentistry. So then I started to focus my education onto indirect dentistry. And then something struck me that I heard the other day from another podcast, a surgeon. He talked about what the top 3 things every new graduate should know. Like, you should just already be good at this when you graduate. The first one was treatment planning. Mm-hmm. So you should come out of dental school knowing how to treatment plan efficiently. Number 2 was communication, which we've already touched on. We know why that's important. And number 3 is giving LA. So knowing how to do a painless procedure. So I thought that was really interesting. And I think that really resonated with me.
Yeah, I actually agree. One of the best courses I ever did as a new dentist was actually treatment planning, diagnosis and treatment planning. Yes. And I think if you can get that right, it sets up the whole thing. And you're away. And I agree that being able to give a good block or be able to do treatment painlessly is going to be really critical, not just to get the efficiencies, of course, which is important, but also the patient trust, the patient relationship, all of that comes off in that experience. So, guys, we do have the Dental Summit coming up in 2023 in a few months' time. I wanted to just talk a little bit about what the theme is for that event, because, again, we spoke about potentially practice owners wanting to outsource their mentoring, perhaps invest in the education of their associates as a development tool, but also as a retention tool. What's the theme of the summit this year?
I suppose the theme of the summit, so we created the summit, Jeff and I, in response comes to those few themes that we've just talked about running through the dental industry. So one, finding the ideal associates, and associates finding the ideal position. So we do have one aspect of the summit that is specifically dedicated towards connecting these two groups of people by way of a job wall at the actual summit. So if you're an associate seeking a role within a dental practice, you can actually bring along a physical copy of who you are and what you want and stick it up on that side of the wall. Likewise, if you're a practice owner and you're seeking an associate, you can put your ad up on the other side. So whilst I was saying to Dr. Jeff before, it's a little bit of an archaic way of finding a job these days with a pin-up board, it creates the conversation and it creates the space where these two groups of people can actually be in the same room and find each other. So that's theme number one, is finding the ideal job, finding the ideal associate. The other major theme would be education. So I've spoken a little bit about how passionate I am about education within those first few years out. So TDS 23 is a reflection of me, and it's a reflection of the passion that I have for education and for the right education, as I was saying before. You can think of it like a showcase of some of the top education providers within Australia, because you'll notice that a lot of the speakers that we have also do have their own further education companies. So not just AHC, but we'll have EODO there, we'll have CEO there, AIA, POS, all these different education providers. So they'll present, but they'll also give you the opportunity to see if the way that they teach resonates with you, and if the topic that they're teaching is something that you want to explore a little bit further. Where else can you go? What other event can you go to where you have all these different education providers in the same room giving you a little taster of what their company is like and of what it would be like for you to enter within one of their programs?
What we wanted to create, Jesse, is a conference in dentistry like none other that people will be talking about for weeks and months on end. We wanted to bring the fun back into conferences. We've been to many conferences across the country over the years where it's quite sterile, it's super professional, it's a very stiff upper lip. To be frank, it's a bit boring. It's been done time and time and time again. It's the usual stuff. We want to bring that fun factor and that surprise element back to conferences. We want to create, and we are creating, a conference that is a mix of a dental education conference, but also a rock concert in a big celebration and party. So, if you're up for a big party celebration and an opportunity to network and mingle, let your hair down and have some fun, then that's what we created for September in Sydney.
Mate, that's going to be fantastic. I can't wait. It's going to be a big event. We can't wait to see it come to life. And so for people wanting to register, I guess the best place for them to go is tds23.com. The early bird tickets are still available to the end of June. So whether you're a practice owner, whether you're an associate, listen to this, jump onto that, because I think you're going to get your blend of high quality education coupled with fun and entertainment, and it's going to be a really good weekend. I can't wait. It's going to be amazing. If you had the opportunity to whisper into the ears of associates, in your case, can be the young recent graduate dentists, and you said, this is the 2 or 3 things, the gospel according to Camellia, if you will. If I could just whisper 1 or 2 pieces of advice into your ear, discreetly and quietly, tap you on the shoulder, what would that be? And similarly, Jeff, if you were to do the same for a practice owner, and you had the opportunity to whisper something quietly, discreetly in their ear, what would be the things that each of you would say to those different cohorts? And maybe we'll start with ladies first. Camellia.
The one that sort of stands out to me that my mentor said to me was that mistakes are opportunities for growth. So to not beat yourself up, mistakes are an opportunity for growth, and sort of switching up that mindset from I stuffed up again, that didn't go the way that I wanted to man, I stuffed up again, that's amazing. How do I figure out how to make it better next time? The sooner you can make that switch in your mind, the sooner you can grow.
I first heard Bill Dorfman, and it really resonates with me in and around communication. And what he said was, don't communicate, connect. And there's a big difference between the two, because oftentimes as as dentists, to our patients, we just we're taught, okay, communicate, give them the options, informed consent, pros and cons, advantages, disadvantages, and I've done my job. And they should say yes to the treatment plan. As a practice owner, we think the same. I just need to communicate with my staff. I need to tell them the ground rules. I need to tell them, their responsibilities and their job description, and that's it. And they should do their job and turn up and be happy for the rest of their lives. Well, it's about a lot more than that. It's about connecting. It's about connecting with your team. It's about connecting with your patients. It's about connecting with people. And if you have that innate ability, or even if you don't have that innate ability, but you learn that ability to connect with people, you'll always be successful.
I really love that distinction. That's a really key distinction, Jeff. I'm going to tell you, I have an intellectual crush on a lady called Brené Brown. I have to say the word intellectual crush because it just sounds weird if I don't add that. Yeah. But her whole philosophy is that connection is what gives meaning and purpose to our lives. And she's a social researcher. Many of you would be familiar with the TED Talks that she's done. And that connection piece, I think, is spot on, mate. And I really, really resonate with that. So thank you for sharing that. Look, as we wrap up, Camelia and Jeff, I just want to take a moment to say thank you, because I think this is a really important conversation, because sometimes as practice owners, we wonder what's going on in the minds of the associate, and sometimes as associates, they probably wonder what's going on in the mind of the practice owner. And I think this has been really good to be able to kind of bring these conversations together to hear what young and recent grads are looking for and seeking as they start their careers, but also understanding the perspectives of the practice owners looking to find that common pathway where the young dentists are getting the support and training and mentoring that they're seeking, and the practice is able to support them in that journey, but obviously keeping that responsibility with the dentists themselves. So I want to say thank you to both of you for coming onto the show today. I'm really looking forward to catching up with you in September myself at the conference. Can't wait to see you both there. So again, just thanks so much for taking the time to come and hang with us today.
Thanks so much, Jesse.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having us, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak our minds.
Thank you for listening to the Savvy Dentist podcast. For more episodes, go to drjessiegreen.com/savvydentist. And to discover how to build a high-performance dental practice, visit drjessiegreen.com and download the free report.